guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick.
I'm Ian.
Today, for the first time ever on the channel, we're doing an album shootout. Today, it's between two classic Metallica albums, And Justice for All and the Black Album.
Pew pew.
There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist we put together every week, and the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes. So first up, I guess I should say I've always loved both of these albums. I think when And Justice for All came out in '88, that was really kind of like my entry point into Metallica. I don't know, when did you start?
I was a little earlier than that. I got Ride the Lightning as a Christmas gift or birthday gift or something. That was my first introduction, and it was maybe 86, 87 when I got that.
Yeah, so I've loved both of these albums ever since they first came out. So today we're going to talk about why we like each album, maybe why we don't like some things on each album, and then ultimately what we consider the better album between the two. So And Justice for All was released back in 1988. Of course, one was the huge track. It was like everywhere, all over MTV when this album came out. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of bad things I can say about this album. Maybe there's a couple of tracks that kind of run on maybe a little too long, but I don't really see that necessarily as a bad thing because the songs still work overall.
Right. I don't think there's anything. I guess I see what you mean, but 8 minutes isn't a long song to me.
Not when there's some songs that have
45 minutes long.
Yeah.
But
well, that's
I would say this probably would have been a 10 out of 10 album for me until I found out about the whole Jason Newsted's bass being toned down and kind of being able to hear that and notice it where I didn't notice it before. And that really kind of dropped it down. That would be the only real negative thing I can say about this album, honestly.
And that's one I didn't even think of until you just said that. Yeah, I completely forgot that was even a thing. And it is something that I never really noticed until just recently when articles start popping up about it.
And it's kind of a we don't know what we don't know kind of a thing, but because I don't know if there's any evidence nothing's been reintegrated. So we don't know what it sounds like with the
with the bass, added bass,
with the bass being brought back to the forefront, or at least even with the other instruments.
Yeah.
So it could just be, who knows, might sound terrible. I don't know.
It's possible.
Jason Newsted's a fantastic bassist, so probably not, but who knows? It could still stink. And
it's definitely an album where when you go back, because I remember reading that just not too long ago, and I went back and listened to it shortly afterwards, and you're right. When you go through there, it's something that it is lacking bass in the album, but it's something that I don't think really it doesn't hurt the overall quality of the album.
That's what I mean. It's like, for all we know, it was maybe the right decision made for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, maybe.
But ultimately, this is what we have, and as it stands, it's still a great album.
Yeah. And then the positives on this album, of course, in my opinion,
pretty much everything else.
Everything else. In my opinion, it's definitely one of the top 5 metal albums of all time. It's probably my favorite metal album of the 80s, just off the top of my head. It's definitely up there. It's definitely, I'd say, at least in the top 3 as far as 80s metal albums go. And from beginning to end, it's a great album. Like I said, it's like the bass issues aside, it's probably a 10 out of 10 album. I'll probably give it maybe like a 9 out of 10, maybe because of the bass issues. But I would love to see it, or love to hear this album with the added bass back into it.
Just to know. For me, there's a lot of nostalgia too with this album that might cloud my judgment a little bit, because this came out right at the peak of Headbangers Ball on Saturday nights on MTV. And one was always, you could guarantee that you were going to see one played on Headbangers Ball. And it's just that whole period of time with metal in general, because it was kind of hitting the mainstream, and not just metal, because this is kind of thrashy metal. That's technically what Metallica was a thrash band.
I think Ride the Lightning was more of a thrash album than Justice for All.
Kill 'Em All for sure, but Ride the Lightning as well, as far as the
even Master Puppets.
Yeah, Master Puppets and this are kind of closer together though. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing I could say bad about it other than what we don't know.
Yeah.
Everything else, to me it's a front to back album listen every time.
And then the Black Album, was released in 1991. I know it's really the Metallica. It's a self-titled album. It's called the Black Album. Yeah. It's just got a. I guess I don't really need to hold the album up because it's just a plain black cover.
You can see the logo.
You can barely see the Metallica.
And the "Don't Tread on Me" snake, which
yeah.
At the time I thought was cool. Now I don't have much of it. I have a much lesser opinion of that particular thing. But
it's a great album.
There's a song "Don't Tread on Me" too.
So the I guess the downside, the negatives I have about this album, really is just that it is a little bit more mainstream, like we were talking about before we started recording. It's got a little bit more of a mainstream rock kind of metal vibe to the album. It doesn't have that same hardcore metal stuff that was on Injustice for All and the albums before that. It's still
metal. It's still metal as far as that goes, but it's no longer thrash metal.
Yeah.
It's just heavy metal. And to some diehard thrash metal fans who really followed Metallica in those early days, I'm sure this is more blasphemy than even them cutting their hair in the in the mid-90s.
I've seen multiple people online in the Facebook group and other Facebook groups talk about how Injustice for All was the last Metallica album.
Yeah, I've seen that comment as well in other places. And I guess for whatever it's worth to you, that's fine. I just think I like a band that's willing to progress. Yeah. They can progress to the wrong area for sure.
Yeah.
And Metallica does at times, not in this album though. Metallica has progressed to the wrong spots, but they can always go backwards.
Yeah.
It's about experimenting. It's trying new things within the confines of what you create, what sound you've created. And to me, they succeeded here.
Yeah, their experimentation on this album worked.
Yeah, and it's not like extreme experimentation. It's just experimentation from their perspective, from their sandbox.
Really, I think for me, the biggest positive about the Black Album
is all of it.
It is. I think that there are, like, overall from beginning to end, I think there are a higher number of great tracks on the Black Album over Injustice for All. Even though both albums have great songs, I think, and I don't think either album has a bad song. I think there are just more songs on here that I would put up as maybe great songs over Injustice for All.
I don't know if I go that far. I would say that there might be a slightly more cohesion to this album over Injustice for All in terms of the way the songs flow. But it's minuscule. It's almost non-noticeable unless you've really sat down and listened to it multiple times. Yeah. Both of them. That would be my only maybe hair of a spot above Injustice for All. But I think.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Looking at these two albums, if you were to just take all the songs and put them in one big bowl and pull out just the classic Metallica songs, I think you'd pull out more songs off of this album than Injustice for All. At least I would.
Well, I think it was marketed that way though, because you got more songs that got MTV plays.
Yeah.
And I don't think the record labels would have put the money into music videos if it weren't for the success of Injustice for All.
Yeah.
So say Injustice for All didn't come out, and this is what came out after.
It would
probably be a different story. Those songs wouldn't have the same gravitas if you don't have that Unforgiven video to go with the song.
Yeah.
Great song. It's one of my favorite Metallica songs, but the video really helped to give that song the emotional push that it had.
Yeah. All right, Ian. If you had to pick one, which one wins? The Black Album or Injustice for All?
I'll just take that bowl you talked about with all the songs in the bowl, and I'll just take it over to my private little island and just have all the songs. I don't know. I mean, this is like
you got to pick one or the other. Death not an option. You got to pick one.
Honestly, if you're putting a pew pew to my head,
it's a shootout.
Yeah,
you got to take one.
Injustice for All.
Yeah, I think I'd go the same way.
Yeah. Just because it's a more pure album in the sense of just being straightforward Metallica. But I say that not wanting to discredit the Black Album in any way. So that would be my choice. If I had to choose one, it'd be Injustice for All.
Well, that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you think the best album is between these two great albums. Love to know what you guys think. Of course, if you guys enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.